go ahead and kick us off. I know we have folks still rolling in, but I'm at least going to kick us off so we can get started here. I am so excited to officially welcome you all to the Senior Living Sizzle, which is super powered by Heart Legacy, which is home to SalesMail, Senior Living's #1 video tool. And these are expert-led conversations on the industry's hottest topics. And today we are continuing the discussion from last week's Senior Housing News Sales and Marketing Conference, where we missed you, Christy, with the topic that you all requested nearly a month ago, and that was sales and marketing made simple for senior living teams. So how timely. If you are new to these conversations, like I said, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. We're joined today by our guests, Christy and Brooke. So thank you both so much for being here with us today. And if you're not familiar with these two, which I'm sure is not the case, but just in case, let's go ahead and have you introduce yourselves. Christy, why don't you kick us off?
Oh, thank you so much for having us, Christy. So as you can tell, I love sales. My name is Christy Westhuizen. I'm the SVP of Sales and Marketing at Legend Senior Living based in Wichita, Kansas. We have 67 properties on the Midwest and also the East Coast, a combination of independent living, assisted living, and memory care. I've been in the industry for almost 17 years. So like you, I got my start as a sales director at the community level and have absolutely loved being part of a home office team where I get to support others in their sales journey. So that's one of my favorite things to do is hang out with salespeople all day long, like yourselves, and help motivate and strategize on ways that they can become even more successful. So that's a little bit about me. What about my industry bestie, Brooke?
Well, thank you. My name is Brooke Saxon-Spencer, and I am the VP of Marketing for Claiborne Senior Living, which is based in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Look it up on your map because I also didn't know where it was. But we are making a name for Hattiesburg. And we have just under 20 communities in the Southeast. I actually live in Los Angeles, which means that I can do all of my things marketing wise. Christy likes to be the face. I like to be behind the scenes. And yes, I do love marketing, but I've been in the industry. Well, I say I was born into it. My family had a community in the Chicago suburbs. I saw a Napervillian here. I was born and raised in Aurora. So I've been in the industry, but I've been working in the industry for almost 26 years. So don't do any math and try to figure out how old I am because I'm only in my 30s. Um, wink, wink, right? But I have found over all of those years that I absolutely love being able to support behind the scenes and strategize and come up with all the things that can help support kind of what Christy is, super passionate about on the front end. What can I do to drive the right leads? What can we do to have the right brand? All of those good things on the, what I say, the back end, so that the front end can really be equipped and empowered to do what they do best, and that's build relationships.
And I do have to say, every Christy needs a Brooke, and every Brooke needs a Christy.
Yes.
Like that's the beauty of success, is having front of house, back of house that is just intertwined, love each other so much. So I can't wait to, dive
And
in.
if you could guess which one of us actually planned the t-shirts,
Oh,
from that comment.
yeah. Okay, execution is not my strong suit. So there you go.
I love this so much. And, Christy, thank you for mentioning that that's how I also got my start in senior living, is in the sales director role. But I remember always wanting to dabble a little bit in the marketing. And there were some organizations that I worked for that were like, no, 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 they are separate. And then there were organizations that were like, no, no, they must work together. They are a cohesive unit. So it was a no-brainer when it came to having this conversation, to have the two of you, the dynamic duo, to talk through this with us. So let's go ahead and dive in. What are some of the biggest hurdles that you are seeing your teams face today? And before we answer that question, I know that the landscape of senior living and sales and marketing is evolving. It's changing. We just heard it last week at Senior Housing News, but it is going to continue to evolve. And so, Christy, maybe we'll start with you, and just what are some of the hurdles that your teams are facing right now?
I think some of the hurdles are really understanding how technology can be a benefit and not a hindrance or
Yeah.
maybe a distraction. I think that that's
Okay.
a big focus for me specifically and our team in 2025 is how does technology work for you and not the other way around? And also understanding that storytelling is a really big factor. So I think as we look at like challenges of 2025, learning how to utilize technology better and learning how to tell our story better are the two biggest challenges that I super duper see.
I love that. Brooke, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
would totally, I totally agree with that 100%. And I would layer onto that, even though technology, we say that it's going to be a time saver, time management, like it's still another layer, right? And so
Mhm.
time management becomes even more important. But I think that the personalization, like you're saying, Christy, telling the story and really personalizing that, that's really where I think technology can shine, but it's using the tools. And I think that is a big challenge, the adoption of these new tools and thinking about things in just a slightly different way, is really going to be, it continues to be a challenge.
Yeah.
For
I think
sure.
that just looking at personalization, Brooke, that is something that I don't think will ever change
Yeah.
in our industry. Like the desire for a prospect or their family to feel special and to feel like the message is not a broad message, but just
Yeah.
carefully crafted just for me, that will never change. And I think that when people get into this industry and they realize how personalized and heartfelt it is, it may not be for everyone. It's not necessarily how many phone calls you make and how many messages you send. It's actually what the receiver on the other end feels when you
Yep.
have the interaction. So there was a really cool article. Gosh, was it just last night that I read? It was a LinkedIn article about activity-based sales versus results-based sales.
Yes.
And I can't remember who,
Ooh.
it's one of our industry friends shared it. And it was just a really good reminder that when you only focus on the activity, how many
Mhm.
phone calls, how many texts, how many tours, you're missing the point. You're missing the connection piece. I'm not saying that that's not important and worthwhile to look at, but it's not the whole story. I could make 100 phone calls and not make a personal connection. And then Brooke, you could make one phone call and make a personal connection and boom, you get the move in. But
Yep.
on paper, I look like more active, but
Yep.
you're more successful. So I just think that we're in a really interesting
Agree.
dynamic. So yeah, anyway.
Quality over quantity is always going to be the key to success, right? And I always think about like, you all know we're big fans of video here. And so I think about, yeah, video creates that psychological proximity in the
Yep.
absence of physical proximity. I am not arguing that physical proximity isn't the gold standard. Being in person will always be the gold standard. But we are now in a market where getting somebody on site at our community, that's the challenge. And if we can do that by personalizing and really sending meaningful communication, I think that's really right where we're going to see a lot of success. I caught only a couple panels at the conference last week, and one of them, Wanda from the Arbor Company, said, if you get ghosted, it's likely because you didn't see them, you didn't connect with them, and they didn't believe you. And I thought
I
that was
loved that. It was
so
so
good.
good.
Yes. And so, right, like I think our goal and our mission then needs to be how do we make prospects feel seen and connected with and heard and recognized? So I love that. Let's kind of talk about the marketing and the messaging and the consistency of that. How do we ensure that our marketing efforts are attracting the right prospects to our websites, to our communities, to that, that kind of thing?
Can I go first?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I would say that this is also becoming more challenging. And we, again, for those that were not there last week, we're going to beat it with a dead horse, but I'll try not to. But thinking about how Gen Xers are definitely on the scene. So now we're dealing with a lot of different people, a lot of different influencers and influencers of influencers. I think it may have even been Wanda again that said like we're
Mhm.
marketing to the granddaughter because the
Yep.
granddaughter is helping the daughter who is helping get her mom into a senior living community. So I think that it has become more and more complex, especially as technology advances. But I find, and I know I think I may be delving into a slightly later question, but it's the communication between sales and marketing really comes down to the data and sometimes just actual conversations. I know that, when we talk with our teams, they'll be like, oh, well, they don't, unless you open the space for the conversation, the feedback doesn't happen. So I don't often talk to the community sales and marketing directors because I want to again, I want to be behind the scenes, allowing them to do what they do best. But every once in a while, it is important to have that dialogue because they'll say things like, oh, well, I've heard that when someone goes on the website, they see blank. Well, I don't know that unless somebody tells me, right? Like I'm not on the websites every single day. So I think that there's different nuances like that you really do find through those conversations. But then the data really does, if it's being documented, that's where I think the real synergies can be had is that marketing can pull all of those numbers, can pull the demographics and all that, and then really paint the picture for who those targets are. But the pitfall there is you have to be careful that you don't lose the personalization, because just because you create a prospect profile doesn't mean everyone fits into that profile.
Right.
Beautifully said.
And I would say kind of that strategy comes from intentional communication with sales and marketing people. I think that is incredibly critical because just like you said, Brooke, a salesperson might say, wow, prospects keep bringing up this one thing on the website, or they keep asking this one question that maybe we should identify as a question and address it on the website. Or, I mean, there's just so much collaboration that needs to happen, but unless it's, I think, intentional and scheduled,
Yeah.
those kinds of interactions just don't happen. And not by necessarily way of wanting to be in a silo, but you just get busy by something else and you forget to have that conversation with your marketing team or with the sales team to make sure that communication happens. So
I love that. And you're right, Brooke. That was a future follow-up question around the analytics. No, this is perfect though, because it was, I was going to ask what role does analytics and the data play in refining the strategies, but what I'm hearing is yes, that plays a huge part, right? But it almost sounds like the collaboration piece of it is more effective than just relying on the analytics and what the data is showing you.
Well, and I think because part of the problem there is those notes aren't going into the CRM. There's or there's no place for that kind of note, right, to go into the CRM. So I think, we can track what's being clicked and what's being read, but you can't track what's not there to be read, or right. So that's where those conversations, and I mean, we even have a contact center, and when I get the feedback from our contact center, I'm always like, well, why didn't they say something? Right?
Right.
Because they're getting feedback from people that are calling in and whatever. And I'm like, those are all quick fixes. But you have to create, as Christy said, that intentional, deliberate space to kind of get that feedback and carve out that time, because it really will help streamline things in the long run.
That's one of my probably favorite takeaways so far. There's been a ton. I've been feverishly writing notes over here, but intentionally scheduling those conversations.
Yeah.
I don't know about you ladies, but nothing's happened in my life unless it's on my calendar. And so this is the same thing, right? It's just one of those things that we need to be intentional about collaborating and getting on the same page.
And I think though that the difficulty from the marketing side is I don't want to take sales time. They're super, super busy. So my job then has to be to take that information and make it valuable, worthwhile, so that they understand and see that their feedback actually can impact the marketing strategies. Does that make sense? So you can't just have a meeting and I can't just write the notes and be like, thanks so much for your feedback. Right. Whatever. We have to actually take it and make it actionable so that they can see the results from the interaction.
Well, I think that salespeople, one of the important things of sales is to create value. Yeah. That I think is the exact same for marketing though.
Yep.
Is to create value.
Yep.
So we're all on the same team. We might have different functionalities of creating value, but that to me is without collaboration and communication, that value might not be aligned.
Yep. Agreed.
And that tees me up to what I was going to share about last week. I heard so many good things. But one of the things was really just being so mindful that the experience that you're marketing about is the experience that is actually being had when folks are arriving to your community. And in my mind, and knowing that this conversation was happening, I was like, that's another beautiful example of sales and marketing needing and getting to collaborate. Because if you, Brooke, and your team, right, are like, oh, it's going to be rainbows and butterflies and sunshine is going to be here, and then you walk in and it's not, then the salesperson then is met with like, oh, wait, that's not what I thought this was going to be. And so if the salesperson and the marketing team are aligned in what we're providing, the value that we're providing, and the experience that we're creating, it's firing on all cylinders. And that prospect, who we're all here for, is going to have a better experience throughout their entire senior living journey.
You just made that sound so easy. And it's really, if only it were that easy. But I even think, like, we talked about like the images you use on your website, and how, like, if we actually, like, and again, I'm just being straight up. I'm straight shooting here, but if I put only images on my website of what my current resident population looked like, Gen Xers and even a lot of the baby boomers would never, ever come and see what actually is happening. So there's a balance to be had sometimes, like what's going to capture people, and but without disappointing the expectation. Does that make sense? Like, you want to set it up, but I mean, I'm not saying that we should not have anyone in wheelchairs on our website or have, things like that. But people, like I just said, when I said I've been in the industry for X number of years, so I'm in my 30s, like I think of myself in my 30s. I'm not in my 30s, right? So trying to figure out how, from a marketing strategy perspective, we're still capturing attention, but then still setting the expectation. Does that make sense? So I think that is a challenge. But I think that does fall back onto sales as like, okay, so I've positioned us as this to attract people, and now you're selling this, which looks a little bit different. So how can you continue that story so that we're not disappointing when it comes to expectations?
I think that using, which is what we're going to segue to here in just a moment, but I think using technology, this is where I think that technology can work to our benefit. I think using whatever video tool brings you joy, could just literally at this point be recording videos on your phone to upload to SalesMail later. You could be capturing what's happening in your community. So I hear you, Brooke, right? Like, if it was a website of only folks in wheelchairs, that might not hit all of the demographics that we're looking at. But if it can paint a picture of what it feels like in that community, that to me feels more important than seeing somebody that looks just like me. Because if my sales director or my resource or my guide through this journey can send me proof, clips, content that showcases what's going on site, that bridges the gap.
Yep. You're absolutely right. And I see Stacy put in the chat, strategic brand development. Yes. I mean, right. That is the missing link. And that kind of ties it all together. And again, said very, very simply, there's a lot of work behind that, but you're absolutely right, Stacy.
So let's talk a little bit more about that personalization and balancing the tech side of the world with that. One of the things we talked about last month on the Sizzle was AI. We don't need to spend too much time on that, but let's talk just briefly about how AI might support these efforts, not replace. It is relationship-driven sales, friends. We must remember that. We must remember that this, in my opinion, if I am an adult child looking for my family member and I get a message from somebody that doesn't feel like that's a real person, I'm going to feel some type of way. But if it is a real human who I know took the time to make a quick message and reach out to me, it feels a lot different. So I'm just curious if that's something that you all are doing right now. Christy, let's maybe start with you on if you're using that.
Not exactly formally, but ChatGPT is definitely a good friend of ours. And so some things that we've used it as from a prospect experience has been, if we get to know the prospect, right? And so curiosity-based sales is one of the I think most important things that we can do as an industry, is get to know these little tidbits and nuggets of gold. You can actually copy and paste your discovery notes that you so wonderfully wrote in the CRM, and paste it into ChatGPT and say something like, hey, I have a budget of $10. What can I do that would wow this person? Or what can I do to make this person feel special? And
Love that.
typically we could pretty much figure that out, but man, you get so many other ideas on how to make someone's day. We're on this I guess, warpath at Legend, all about connecting with prospective residents, but really taking it to the next step and creating an environment where a home visit would be accepted. Hey, you want to know how to build trust? Well, you build it not only in their home, but if they accept you into their home, that means you've built their trust. But we really have really started on this home visit mantra of February. And so you can utilize ChatGPT to help you with, hey, I want to make this person's day. Here's a little bit about them. What can I do? So I know there's so many other things
Oh
from
yeah.
a BI tool. I love to utilize predictive analytics,
Yeah.
and that typically is an AI function. So creating a BI platform is what we're going to be focusing on in quarter 2. But those are 2 things that we're working on right now.
I love those. Those are really good practical use
Yeah.
cases.
I love ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT all the time. Adding on to the AI, I'm sure that I know the CRM that we use and others, like this is also a huge conversation that's being had right now when it comes to predictive analytics. And I know some are already doing lead scoring based on like, so these are all AI functions and features happening behind the scenes to help our teams work smarter, not harder, which kind of lends back to the very beginning of our conversation. Um, but I get really, really excited about those things, about like imagining the day where our teams open up their CRM in the morning and based on all of the different clicks and things that have happened overnight with our prospects, like it's able to pull that data in and tell the teams, like, here's what you need to do today. Based on this person looked at this piece of your, this website or this article on your blog, or this person was on your Facebook page, whatever it is, right? Like taking all those things into account, it can then predict not only the likelihood that they are to move forward, but where it should rank in your day as far as prioritizing and the likelihood to move in. So I like that gets me really excited. And again, maybe it's just because I'm not a true salesperson and I need a roadmap. But then I think about time management being one of the biggest obstacles, or lack of time being one of the biggest obstacles in our day, and getting pulled into all sorts of different things. And so I think that prioritization is going to be super, super helpful in allowing us, again, by doing that, I think it's going to allow us to personalize it. And I know, again, it seems I'm talking about pie in the sky, but it's actually not that far away.
No.
Right. And in fact, like I
If
think
you
that,
can articulate it to us that beautifully, it's
yeah,
obviously on the horizon.
yeah. So yes, I get absolutely excited about where I's headed with that. But there's so many other things that AI can do. And again, every conference, like you said, we're not going to go too far into AI, but I think that the idea of utilizing it to inform and like create the space for our teams to execute on the relationship, on the personalization is what really, I think that's where the real value is there.
I love that. One of the quotes from Matt last month was automate the mundane, elevate the
Yeah.
meaningful. That
Yeah,
feels
that's good.
right.
Yeah.
And it allows us, right, to do more of the human to human interaction and connection, which is what this industry is all about. So let's shift to that a little bit. Let's talk about psychological proximity, which is right in line with the quote that I shared at the beginning, and just creating those deeper connections through personalized communication. I'm curious what personalized communication efforts you all are doing right now. Christy, I know your team is leveraging video. So I would just love to hear, where maybe 2 or 3 places along the sales process are the most meaningful to be creating content in that way.
So one thing that I just want to really emphasize is I utilize SalesMail as a leader, as a sales leader. So I'm actually modeling the behavior that I expect to see from salespeople. Yeah, I know. That's chef's kiss, right? So we had a big call blitz about 2 weeks ago, and silly me, the day of the call blitz, I'm like, I'm just going to send a personalized video to every single team, all 67 of them. Okay, I'm like 2 hours into it, and I'm like, this was the dumbest idea I've ever had. But it got the teams like raring to go and excited. And again, it was not a generic message from Christy. It was I said their names and I had a individual message for each of them. Anyway, so if you're a sales leader or you're a marketing leader and you really want your teams to utilize a tool, you got to start using it yourself. I think that's just one way of personalizing it for your team. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's one thing I would recommend anyone to do with any tool, but SalesMail especially. And I
I
will
gotta
be
tag on to
sending.
you as
Oh,
far as the sales leader. So you using the platform to try to get buy-in. Previous company I worked with, the owners asked for the hottest lead at every community, and they created a video. And out of the, I think 20% of the video recipients moved in. No, it was not easy for the ownership to sit back and make all of those videos either, but they looked through the CRM, right? And they did that. So sorry, Christy, I just like setting the example
No,
at the
that's
very top is
incredible.
absolutely key.
well,
It really does make a huge difference.
I will be sending multiple videos today because I need to utilize my shirt to get some more sales.
I
Woo!
love that. Okay, one more thing before I'm going to ask. We have a question that popped up in the Q&A, so I'm going to share that. But I just want to speak to this really quickly. Christy, you leading by example and really just giving that advice to people. I think that regardless of the tool, right? Using the tool to just do what you would normally do, not to say use the tool, is very subtle but impactful. Because what happened is all 67 of those people felt something from you doing that. I know it took you a long time, and thank you for showing me the screen roll of all of them that you sent. I appreciated that. But what happens in those sales directors' brains is they now know that their prospects are going to feel that way if they leverage this communication method as well. So kudos to you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we have 2 minutes left, ladies. I don't know how this happens every single time where the time just flies, but our question in the Q&A is, I'm curious if any of you ladies spend time doing a courtesy check-in with prospects that chose a competitor. Do you still market community events to those families that you had a good inquiry process with, but unfortunately they chose a different community? Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
If they're a competitor, they, in my mind, they don't fall off as a hot lead. In fact, I think that they stay on as a hot lead for a good 4 to 6 weeks. And we may not pelt them, but we check in after a couple of weeks and then again after a couple of weeks just to see how it's going, because the service failures at get-go sometimes turn into immediate move outs and you never know what you might capture. And again, it's just, for me, it's like creating a loyal customer. They may not have moved in, but how can I create someone who's loyal to the brand long term? And if we still treat them well, who knows who they might refer?
Amen to that.
Ditto.
Echoing these sentiments. All right. We have 1 minute left, ladies. Is there anything that is standing out to you as far as one actionable item that folks can do watching right now to just, heighten, enhance, improve their sales and marketing efforts?
Go into every single interaction knowing that you could change that person's life with that interaction. You might need to take 15, 20 seconds to close your eyes and just get into knowing that you could touch their life in such a positive way with that text, with that email, with that phone call, with that sales mail. It might feel mundane, but to that person, you could change their life.
Well, and I'll say on the marketing side of things, since I am a bit removed, it's important for folks like me to remember that we're talking about real people. It's not just numbers, and it is a numbers game to some degree, but it's not just about the numbers. These are about real people, and that tags right into what Christy was just saying about changing lives. Like, that is ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to enhance lives, and so I can't just look at all of the marketing as just numbers. It takes a totally different meaning when you start to put faces to the numbers, so to speak.
And I think when you focus on the connection and you do have
Yeah,
the intention of changing lives, the numbers come, and they
they do.
come in a
Yep.
copious deal when your intention and your energy is aligned. So thank you both for those incredible takeaways. And thank you all so much for being here today. To our guests, thank you for bringing your experience, expertise, and spending time with us. Our audience, we appreciate you all spending 30 minutes of your time and attention with us as well. So stay tuned for our next segment. Be sure to vote on the topic you want to see at the end of this call. So we will see you next time for the Senior Living Sizzle. Thanks, everyone.